Hey everybody, Faja here, and welcome to another Kava Journal. So we're continuing on with our Kava journey. We've taken 2 days off of Kava, and then we're going to start back into the regular regiments, having 7 days worth of Kava, and then taking 2 days off once again. Now, a small recap as to what Kava is for those of you who are just joining us on this part of the journey. Now, Kava is a plant that has 3,000 years of cultural and medicinal significance, and is primarily found throughout Polynesian cultures in the South Pacific Islands, including but not limited to Filipino culture, Fijian culture, Micronesian culture, Hawaiian culture, and many more. A biological cousin to the pepper plant, kava has a very unique effect on the body. Not only is it known for having a numbing effect on the mouth and the tongue, it is also known for having a sedative and euphoric effect that is known to act as a social lubricant. Now, in the previous video, I talked about the Fijian myth behind kava. In this particular segment of the video, I do want to talk about the Tongan myth behind kava. Now, Tonga is a Polynesian kingdom that encompasses over 120 islands. Though many of those islands are unpopulated by human population, they are considered sanctuaries. And it is also part of the continent known as Oceania. Now, much like within the multitude of cultures that were already mentioned, within Tongan culture, kava has much cultural significance. Now, the mythology around Tongan kava surrounds the story of an isolated couple found in one of the southern islands of the Tongan chain. And though their life was anything but easy, they lived happy and fulfilling lives, enough to be able to even start a family. And their daughter's name was Kava Kilai Ma Fa Imata. And they lived their days happy, working, and enjoying as much of life as they could. One day, upon his journeys, the Tongan king stumbled upon this isolated family. And though they were isolated, they recognized the king. And they also recognized that the king had been on a long journey, that he and his men were starving and needed nourishment. And within their cultural hospitality, the father felt the need to feed and water the king's men. Being delighted having been graced by the presence of the king himself, he would promise the king and his men a great feast. But at the time, the Tongan Islands were facing a great famine and drought, and thus the father failed to procure anything for a feast. In the father's desperation to not disrespect the king, he believed that he would have to offer the king his greatest treasure, his daughter's life. And with remorse in his heart, the father would murder his own daughter and bury her underneath a tree. The father would bring the king to the very site that he had buried his daughter and announced what he had done. The king would kneel on the burial site of the daughter and would declare that the family owed him nothing, and that for his sacrifice, his daughter would be remembered by the Tongan people forevermore. The king would leave, and the sun would set and rise once more. The grieving couple would return to the site where their daughter was buried, and there, miraculously, they would see 2 plants sprouting, one from the head and one from the feet. And as the mother and father observed these 2 plants that were growing at the head and foot of their daughter's burial ground, they would also observe a mouse emerging from the jungle. The mouse would chew on the stalk of the plant that grew on the head of the graveyard. And then the mouse would begin to stumble, as if drunken, stumbling its way to the stalk of the plant that grew at the foot of the graveyard. Chewing on this stalk, the mouse became alert and energized, running back into the jungle. This was the gift of the sacrifice that their daughter gave to them: kava for the heart and sugar for the body. And it is through this story that it became tradition for the Tongan people that whenever a new Tui Tonga, a new king, is chosen, that the Tongan people would hold a kava ceremony to connect with their traditions, with their past, and with all of the people within the Tongan island chains. And that is the mythology and culture of Tongan kava. And now we're going to make our own kava. So we've got our 3 batches here. With today's journal and our batches, we are going to be taking 3 batches of kava all at once, or as we can. And then in the next Kava journal, we're going to space out the batches of kava that we ingest to see if that extends the period of time and if we feel a peak at any moment and when that peak occurs, and if it tapers off and when. Of course, today being a standard method, we are going to do a 15-minute check-in and a 45-minute check-in. Alrighty, my friends, we have our kava here, and we're ready. We got to do it in 2 batches. It's 3 batches, but we're going to drink it in 2 goes because we mix it all together. Let's get going. Bula. Maka. Alrighty then, so of course that numb tongue is immediately there. And we'll do that 15-minute check-in and that 45-minute check-in. I'm already feeling a lot looser already, having ingested 3 batches in one go. So, 15-minute check-in, I can honestly say that it is definitely rolling in a little bit quicker than it did beforehand. And it's a nice roll. It's still a relaxed roll upward into this feeling of relaxation and euphoria and just the ability to just sit here and kind of, bullshit around. Well, a 45-minute check-in. All right, so I'm just feeling good. For lack of a better terminology at this point, it is the personification of that feeling, of just feeling good, feeling okay, Hakuna Matata. And it's a wonderful feeling, just as much as it's a wonderful phrase. So, yeah. Even if it's just somewhat placebo affected, I don't know. I really don't, because I'm not the person that's going to tell you the science behind it, because I don't know the science behind it. I'm not a dietitian. I am not a medical professional. I am just a dude trying out kava for his own mental health. And I am enjoying the journey. I hope you enjoyed this video. I appreciate all of y'all. And tomorrow will be when we start our little kava experiment, and we'll do some more check-ins rather than just the 15-minute check-in and the 45-minute check-in. Thank you so much for joining me. Y'all stay awesome, and I'll see everybody again next time.